Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and today we're talking about adaptability. And a few people embody that skill better than Matthew Burch. He spent over 23 years in the U.S. Air Force, rising to the rank of Master Sergeant. But from early on, he understood something critical. The military is a contract, not an identity. The perspective shaped his approach to service and, more importantly, the seamless transition to the civilian world. While many people struggle with leaving behind their military role, myself included, obviously, that's why we have a show, Matthew had already mastered the art of career pivots, having reinvented himself over 10 times to stay ahead in the workforce. So when he retired in 2019, there was no hesitation. He dove straight into the tech industry, and by 2021, he took the leap into entrepreneurship, founding Loggerhead Dynamics. Now a passionate vetrepreneur, Matthew is here to share his insights on staying relevant, building a business, and why your identity to a job might just be the biggest mistake you could make. Let's dive into the conversation. Matthew, brother, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. First question for everybody. Where did you grow up and what inspired you to join the Air Force?
Ooh. So I grew up in rural northern Michigan. My hometown is called Everett, Evart. Our claim to fame is one of the national locations for the Dulcimer Festival. And if you want to hear probably the worst music you've ever heard, Google Dulcimer and look at videos on YouTube.
Oh, come on now. The dulcimer can be a pretty instrument.
Yeah, if you want to sit around in bare feet smoking joints and getting in touch with your spiritual side, I suppose. But that wasn't for me.
You were preaching to the choir right here, brother. That is me.
I graduated high school in 95, but if you rewind the clock, George Bush 1 signed the NAFTA free trade agreement. It got enacted and put in place under Clinton. So we can't blame Clinton for it, but it got enacted under him and it killed the automotive industry. So in 95, when I graduated, I wasn't walking into any kind of a wonderful automotive dynasty job. There wasn't going to be a 30-year retirement from GM for me. All that stuff was gone. The state of Michigan died essentially and is still dying a slow death. People just haven't completely left. So I joined the Air Force. I found anything to get me out of there. I wasn't going to go to college because I didn't have money. I hated school. I got terrible grades because they weren't teaching me anything I wanted to learn. I'm the shop class and building trades guy. I'm not the let's go sit here and talk about government and home ec
problems. Yeah.
I don't care about any of that. Algebra has literally never saved my life, and I walk around with a calculator in my pocket every day. So as far as I'm concerned, anything that I was taught and anyone who taught me anything in any kind of formal education prior to me joining the Air Force and just kiss my ass, because you wasted 12 years of my life I'll never get back. I didn't take anything from high school into the real world. Everything that in the real world was experience based. So, and in the military, when I joined the Air Force, everything in the Air Force and the Army, every A school, AIT, tech school, it's all accelerated learning. So they take 2 years of audit. Like first thing I did was a crew chief. So they took like aircraft maintenance and dumped about 1.5 to 2 years worth of aircraft maintenance training into weeks, months. So I had, you learn very quickly, and they're ripping through training and you're ripping through modules, and it is what it is.
Was the Air Force and being an aircraft mechanic, was that like high on your list just because you are the shop guy and the guy that likes to work with your hands, or was that just something that you fell into when you joined?
So the Air Force didn't need, when I went to school in high school, I was in building and trades. So I learned how to build houses. So when I went to the Air Force recruiter, I said, "Don't you have carpenters?" He's like, "Yeah, but we don't need those. We need mechanics." I said, "Well, I don't want to be a mechanic." He said, "Well, there's the door." And I said, "Well, I guess I'll be a mechanic."
So you didn't even consider another branch at all? It was definitely the Air Force for you?
I didn't. When I talked to the Army recruiter, I wasn't impressed. I just wasn't. The guy was just, "Yeah, you can join the Army, whatever." It wasn't.
His give a fuck meter was broken.
He was pegged at 0. Like, there's 18 more people coming in today that I can sign up. So yes or no, kind of an attitude. The Marine recruiter I talked to him at MEPS because there really wasn't much of a Marine presence in Northern Michigan. So when I went to Lansing to go to MEPS, I talked to a Marine recruiter in passing. He's like, "Hey, which branch are you joining?" I said, "I'm joining the Air Force." And, I had already pretty much signed all the paperwork and I was good to go through MEPS, getting ready to get on the bus to go home. He's like, "Well, you want to join the Marines? It's real competitive and it's real small." And I'm like, that's not for me, man. I don't want to go camping for a living. So hard pass, I got a job. I got a date. I'm going to stick with it. So I left for the Air Force, and the first thing I did 3 different jobs in the Air Force. So I was an aircraft mechanic for just shy of 10 years. I retrained into medical administration, which was a wild transition.
Yeah,
Like if you think
seriously.
you think transitioning out of the Air Force is rough, transitioning from a industrial environment with industrial language and a whole lot less give a fuck about anything but the job. And then you go to a customer service role in a hospital where everyone's got to be nice to everybody. And you're like, I
A
got to put
little,
away my knife hand.
yeah, a little out of your element there, huh?
So, yeah, I mean, I had hot coffee. I was warm. Air
Why the
conditioning
reclass?
worked. I came home on a humanitarian, and my stepfather was terminally ill, so they sent me back. I was in Okinawa, and they sent me back, and they give you there's like 15 career fields the Air Force has where they're direct duty assignments. So they're all admin, finance, personnel, admin stuff you don't really need to go to a tech school to pick up on.
So it's kind of just a compassionate reassignment deal.
Yeah, the Air Force calls it a humanitarian reassignment.
Got it. Got it. I'm
Well, there's a
familiar.
little box on the application you click that says, "Are you willing to retrain to take this assignment?" I said, "Yeah, I'd like to be home,"
Right.
and that's what they gave me. So I become a medical admin guy, and then I got tired of that after 6 years and 4 assignments, and I chose to retrain again. And everyone's like, "Well, you've been in this long. You're E6. Why are you trying to retrain?" And I'm like, "Because this sucks. I don't know if you know this. There's an Air Force out there, and it's all passing us by. Like sitting in an admin position in a hospital, like Monday through Friday. Most of the time, it's 7:30 to 4:30 with nothing exciting happening.
It's Groundhog
So,
Day, right? For six
oh,
years.
it's yeah, and I had to wear my blues most of the time.
Oh,
Like
no.
I had to wear the casual open collar blues outfit all the time, and I was like, this sucks. Like it was just boring. And I went to the NCO Academy up in Tyndall Air Force Base. So when I went, that's where all the people from Hurlburt Field, all the special forces guys, and all the high speed folks go. So I was in a class full of like combat controllers and pararescuemen and EOD guys, and I'm like, I feel like I'm getting passed by. So I graduated on Friday, came back to work Monday, and said I'm retraining. And the guy goes, "Well, we're 107% man, so I can't stop you." I said, "That's music to my ears."
Good news, right? Let me out
So
of
I
here.
retrained. Yeah, so I clicked the retrain button, and I all my choices were all air crew. I wanted an air crew job because I wanted to get back into the fight. And so after it all shook out, I was selected to be an MQ-9 sensor operator. So I operated the cameras and guided the weapons off the MQ-9 Reaper drone.
Yeah, dude, those drones are so cool.
So I did that for the last 9 years of my career. I was an instructor and evaluator. I flew in multiple theaters, multiple operations. We got attached to JSOC, so things got real cool, real fast. Like
Real fast.
doing airstrikes was like doing bank mergers. They call you up, they're like, "Hey, yeah, we're going to do a 9 line on this guy, so let me know when you're ready." So he would, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, you're tired, you're just like, and then like the phone rings, you're like, "I'm awake,
Yep.
I'm ready,"
Yep.
and then they run through a 9 line like they're doing a negotiation for a car deal. No excitement in their voice. They're like, "Yeah, we'll do 9 line whatever and blah blah blah," and it didn't take the excitement out of what you were doing, but it was when you're dealing with that high level of person at the JSOC level who is I don't know how to describe it, but I mean like
They're
you're
stoic.
dealing with a
They're
tier
stoic
one.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're dealing with a tier one guy on the other end of the line, and you're just like, okay, let's do it. And so that was exciting. I really was glad to have had that as a capstone because I just had no interest in being an admin person at all.
Yeah. So were you stuck in the little box flying the drones and out in the Vegas area or whatever, wherever that's at, Pahrump, I guess?
No, I never got stationed in Vegas. So when I came into the career field in 2012, they were trying to open up new locations because the career field was dying because everybody got sick of going to Vegas.
Yeah, I got a buddy that's out there now. He's been out there for a couple of years. I was in flight school with him after the army, and he hates it. He's miserable. It's shift work, and there's
Oh yeah.
nothing around the area out there. It's just Nevada desert, and he's like, dude, I can't wait till this is over. I think I don't know how the Air Force works, but he ended up getting retrained on a C-17, so he gets to go do that as his next assignment as a pilot on the C-17 after he's done with the drone gig. But he did say that there's a lot of cool shit that happens, obviously that he can't talk about. I'm sure you have the same experience, but he said like overall it really sucks being shoved in a box. And I think he was a aircrew guy, like a load master or something like that before he went out to the drone thing. That was kind of like the penance he had to pay in order to be a C-17 pilot on the other side, was go fly the drones.
Yeah, the Air Force has made a lot of deals and broken a lot of promises in the MQ world because it quickly became the most requested asset, and every combatant commander wanted it.
I was a conventional guy in Afghanistan in 2012, and we would use you guys ad nauseum as much as we possibly could. And it's funny to hear you talk about how the tier one guys were talking on the radio. Hey, I got a 9 line for you. We were doing so much of that stuff as conventional forces in Afghanistan in 2012. It was routine. We were pretty calm about it. Like, we were patient, and it was pretty stoic coming across the radio with a 9 line. Like, hey, we're just going to kill another dude. Like, this is just what's going to happen.
Let's put some iron on some heads, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So I was never stationed in Vegas. So when I went through school, we got our assignments. I got assigned out to Ellsworth Air Force Base in Rapid City. They had opened another location because they're trying to give people options and assignments because the Air Force was turning into the main training pipeline for contractors. So what they would do is you get a guy come in for an enlistment, then he'd go get paid $250,000 and go be a sensor operator for General Atomics or any of the other big contractors. So they said we gotta fix this because everybody hates their life, and the coolest thing that's ever happened in the Air Force, really.
Well, it was a similar thing was happening to you drone operators. It was happening us to infantry guys during the surge. As everybody was getting out and going to the State Department because they were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars tax-free on 90-day rotations. And it was just like, why would I do this for the Army when I could go do this for civilians and make way more money?
Yeah, 100%. And so I never ended up. I went from Ellsworth to Holloman to be an instructor and an evaluator, and then I retired. So, 1,000 hours worth of flying and instructing and all that, and I came out of the Air Force, and that was kind of the highlights of my career, I guess, if you want to say that. I did a boatload of deployments. I deployed in every career field. So I was in special operations at Mildenhall when 9/11 happened. I was in Airman leadership school and then left for like a year. We all just like packed up as a unit and said, hey, we're going to go fight the war. Well, we started in Afghanistan, and then they were like, hey, while you're doing this Afghanistan thing, we want to crank up some Iraq time. So I helped start that. It was interesting.
Yeah. Now, you admittedly, filling out my form and all that, you coming on this show, you talk about you realizing that the military was a contract for you, and moving into your transition. Your transition wasn't the typical service members transition out of the military. Where did you learn and develop the mindset that this is just a contract? This is not something to become my identity, particularly because you're pretty young when you joined, like I was. I was 17 when I joined. And, life for me was pretty difficult growing up. I had a lot of outside influences that I think definitely 100% contributed to me wrapping my identity into the Army and then dealing with that on the backside of transitioning out and whatnot. So what was it for you? How did you keep a level head and the right mindset to experience the transition not as an identity or purpose loss, but just as I'm just changing jobs. I mean, you changed jobs 3 times in the Air Force, so I'm sure that sets you up for success in that too, particularly, going from a mechanic to, an admin guy. You admitted that is, you talk about a hell of a transition, right? So is that kind of where you got that mindset from, or kind of walk us through that?
You got to go way, way back in my life. So I had the benefit and the tragedy in my life of loss at an early age. And my father was in the Navy, and I had a sister that passed away in the 70s of sudden infant death syndrome, which called crib death. No one realized what it was until sometime in the 90s, I guess, where you can't have a baby under the age of a year old sleeping on their stomach because it can cause them to suffocate. Well, that's what happened to my sister. And that drove my father out of my life. He was in the Navy already, but he couldn't take the loss of a child. And I was 3 when that happened. And being a young child and losing your sister, like, I didn't really understand that. And it's never, that in and of itself has never been that hard of a thing for me to understand or to deal with, because it was almost like, I don't remember. There's pictures of me with her, but I don't remember her specifically. I remember the day it happened, because I remember sitting behind the front door of the house, because the front door of the house, you opened the door to the left, and I was behind the door, and I remember firemen coming in and out of the house. I didn't understand what was happening, and it was years later that I talked to my mother about it, and she's still wrecked about it, of course. I mean, I hold no one in any ill regard for having trauma from losing a child. I have 2 children of my own, and I couldn't imagine. But it drove my father out of my life, and what drove him out was the loss of my sister and my mother, and everyone's wrecked emotionally, and everything disintegrated.
It's a lot of
My
tough
mother,
dynamics going on there.
yeah, and my mother married a 1% biker.
Uh-oh.
So my stepdad growing up was a 1% biker. And he was the embodiment of it. He was a truck driver by trade. He worked in the oil field and then got hurt, and then he worked as a truck driver. And so my life kind of revolved around being the stepchild to a 1% biker, and it didn't go well for me because I was the youngest. He had 2 children of his own, and I was the youngest. So my stepbrother and stepsister, they were 6 and 8 years older than me. So there was really no connection there. I was like, and my father, after he recovered from the loss of my sister, remarried and had 2 more children, and they were 6 years and 8 years younger than me.
So you're kind of just left in this like island by yourself of just like this island of forgotten children.
I'm a dead zone middle child. And so early on, it was nothing I did was right. Nothing was good enough. I was somebody else's kid. So I had this fuck you attitude from like 4 years old on. And I was never a foster child, but there was a lot of times where it was that Matt Damon, pick the wrench, pick the stick, pick the belt kind of a thing. And there was a whole lot of fuck you going on there. And he was just a fucking bastard, man. I'll lay it out there he's dead. I went and pissed on his grave.
I feel it.
Fuck that guy. Fuck him forever.
And his club, right?
Fuck him. Fuck his club. Fuck his biker friends. Fuck everybody that ever knew him. I'm not a fan to this day. And if he were alive, I'd probably try to find a way to fucking poke him in the chest and tell him about it. But
do you have a relationship with your real father now?
No, he passed away as well.
Okay. But there was the same resentment towards your real father as you do your stepdad, or did he eventually before he passed, come back around in your life to try and make things right when he got over
it? He was never in my life ever. Like, he only met one of my children. Like, he never wanted anything to do with me, and I think it was a lot to do with the trauma of what he went through.
Well, and the Navy being an easy escape for him too. You could just
Oh yeah.
Kind of pawn
Yeah.
it off on, well, it's the Navy's fault that I got to be gone all the time. And like, again, you said you don't hold any ill will towards, how he reacted to losing a child, and you can't imagine that. And so I imagine it makes it pretty easy, having served for 23 years in the Air Force, to understand kind of, you might have done the same thing had the roles been reversed, right? Like, you lost a child, you probably could have just as easily retreated to the Air Force and just escaped all of it to forget, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I never really reconciled with my father. He was never part of my life, and when he passed, he never really wanted anything to do with me. So, do I blame him for the way he reacted to my sister? No. But do I really appreciate that he basically left me to
Figure it out.
go through? Yeah, basically go through what I went through. Also, no. But my upbringing caused me to have the fuck you attitude, and to the it still exists. I mean, fuck you never let me down ever.
It's been there for you.
Yeah, fuck you's always been my best friend. I don't like it. Fuck you. I don't care what it costs me. Fuck you. I'm not doing it. However, my stepdad was connected to certain people through his family connections that did appreciate who I was as a person, who did want to see me succeed. And one of those people, his name was Charlie Moore, and he was a Navy and Army veteran of World War II. He was in the Navy in the 30s, got out, and then the World War II kicked off, and he went back into the Army. And Charlie had a really interesting background because Charlie was a trucker. He kind of had a normal life after the Army. He did a lot of different jobs, but he had this experience in World War II with the OSS, the precursor to the CIA. So he got in a lot of fights. He was in the Army, and he was an infantry guy, and they got in the fights. He's like, we go downtown and fight with those damn Marines and blah 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 and all that. And
Typical.
inter-service, yeah. And he kept getting locked up in the brig. Well, he kept getting locked up in the brig to the point where the Army was ready to basically bury him under the jail. We're tired of your attitude. We're tired of this problem. So the last time he went to jail for fighting, a gentleman came on and said, "You've got something I want to use, but we want to channel this for you." And he got sucked into the OSS because all he wanted to do was fight. And he's like, "Well, we got a place for that." So he went from kind of like normal infantry, because the parachute regiments were so new in World War II that it wasn't like, I'm going to go be airborne in the 82nd or whatever. It was. So he went to OSS training, went to jump training, glider training. They just kept giving him training. And he came out of the Army after World War II and became a commercial pilot because he went through flight training. So fast forward into the 90s, when I'm kind of coming of age and getting ready to be an adult and kind of figuring out what I want to do with my life, he lived across the street from us. And I was talking to him. He's like, what do you think you want to do? I said, I think I want to join the military. I think I want to try my hand at that. He's like, and that's what he told me. He didn't tell me before. I knew he was a veteran, but he didn't really tell me what he was doing. And he told me at that table over coffee, he said, I was in the OSS in World War II, and that's what enabled me to be a pilot. That's what enabled me to be anything I wanted to be. So if you join the military, I don't care which branch it is, if they offer you any level of training, you take it, because it's all free. You just got to give them time. It's always an exchange for time. So that's what you do. If they're going to offer you training, you take it. Doesn't matter what it's for. Doesn't matter if you can use it or not. Just go take the training, because somewhere along the line, you'll pull something from it that you can apply somewhere else.
Dude, this is amazing advice. And this is advice I give to veterans getting out to this day. It's like, man, you don't want to have that conversation with that person. You want to reach out to that person, whatever it may be. Just remember that person has something valuable to teach you. I don't care who it is. Every single person you come in contact with has something valuable to teach you that you can use either now or in the future. And I think it's super important. And I'm so glad that you had somebody in your life recognize your potential and really want to mentor you in that way. That's solid advice, man.
So when I came in the Air Force, and he said too, he's like, they're going to use you, so use them back. That was his words.
I wish somebody would have said the same shit to me, man. It would have made everything that I went through afterwards so much easier.
And like my upbringing, like I never cared about the outcome of sports. I played sports. I played basketball as a, I wasn't ever very good at it, but I was on the team and I did stuff. But I never cared about the outcome. I just wanted to play. Like when it comes to sports, like I don't care about the score. I don't golf, but if I play golf, I don't care what the end of it is. I just want to go get drunk on the golf course with my friends.
That's dude, I'm the same way. That's exactly what I say about golf. I'm shitty at it. It's fun to be out with the boys and drink a couple. Well, I don't drink anymore, but it's still fun even though I don't drink. It's just something about that 4 or 5 hours playing 18 holes with your buddies is it's cathartic. It's just rewarding. I don't know what it is about it, and you don't have to be good at golf to enjoy it.
Well, so not caring about the outcome of sports and playing sports and being on a team, like I just wanted to be on the team, right? So when I joined the Air Force, having Charlie Moore, former OSS operative, tell me they're going to use you, so use them back. Take the training, get everything you can out of them because they're asking for a whole lot from you, up to and including your life. Like you wrote them a blank check, it's time to cash it in, right? So from day one, and then I went through basic and tech training, and I got to my first assignment, and another person at random, his name was Gene. I don't remember his last name. I think it was Longo. He was a master sergeant, very long in the tooth in my particular opinion, because I'm 19 years old, 20 years old. It's 1996, and he's like, "Hey, Birch, what's your plan? Like, what are you planning to do?" And I I went to a what's the Air Force has white jet assignments. So a white jet is like specialty air transport. So it's kind of a sleepy hollow assignment. I was at Scott Air Force Base at AMC headquarters, and we had the DC-9. There's only 3 locations that we had them, and so he says, "Well, what's your plan for the Air Force?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't, I don't even. I came in as an airman basic. I had like E1. I had no stripes, zero experience. Like I just got out of being a basic mechanic school kind of thing." I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "Well, you better fucking figure it out because this ride ends, and when it ends, we drop you off and we don't look back." And I was like, "Okay, I'll tuck that away for later." And those are the two defining conversations for me as I went through. I'm proud of my service. I'm proud to have served. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve. I'm grateful that I was physically, because they say 5% is physically capable or physically, you qualify for the military and less than 2% do. I don't know what the exact numbers are.
But it's way
So
lower now.
I'm,
It's way lower
yeah,
now.
yeah, the obesity epidemic is outrageous. But so I'm grateful for the opportunity, but at the same time, it was just a job for me. And because of those conversations that I had before and in my early career, I realized if I'm gone tomorrow, they'll replace me in a week. Like nobody gives a shit really. I mean, yeah, you got to give a shit because the suicide epidemic, and we got to go through training. And I don't know how many times I went to a suicide awareness briefing, and somebody looked at me and said, "If I go through another suicide awareness briefing, I'm gonna fucking kill myself." Like everybody is, you're going through training. They're doing anything to look like they're doing something because they know they can't solve the problem, but they can't be liable. And I realized the Air Force isn't liable. They have a legal obligation to you and not a moral obligation. When I was an E4 and I went through something called supervisor safety training. And supervisor safety training was basically saying, you're a leader now, you're in charge, you're here to make sure that everyone's doing everything right, and the Air Force is not liable. It's your fault. So they take it from the big Air Force and they pin it on E4 and above. So they're like, people generally care about you, okay, on a level person to person. But if somebody died in a car wreck in Germany and I never met them, I'm sorry for the loss to their family, but do I really know them? Do I, there, and the other thing I found out when I got into medical is you're an administrative process once you become dead. And
Puts
that's a
things into
harsh truth.
perspective, right?
Yeah, you're draped with a flag. We'll put you on a C-17. We give you a dignified transfer, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things about the military that people don't realize. And when you're on the inside of it, you start to see, you're like, this is churning numbers. We're ripping through, like on the infantry, you the 82nd had like there's a certain percentage of, if the whole division jumps in on something, there's an X amount of percentage that gets lost. We're just going to lose that guy. We have to accept that we're going to have 3,000 broken ankles,
It's like
whatever it
30,
is. I
I
don't
think it's
know.
like 30% before they deem them not combat effective or something like that on a jump. I wasn't airborne. I can't remember, but they drilled that into us at NCO academies and shit like that. Like, these are acceptable losses. It's funny listening to you talk about these things, because for me, there's several defining moments where I could have realized the same thing that you realized in my career. I just didn't. The example that comes to mind is I got stop moved between my second and third deployments at the third ID. So on my second deployment, I'd come down on orders to go to Alaska. Everything up to and including turning in CIF and basically clearing main posts. I just had to clear the unit before they moved me to send me on a third deployment to Iraq. And I took it all the way to the division sergeant major, where he basically told me to shut up and color. I don't care, you're going. Right then and there would have been a prime moment for me to realize this is all transactional. You don't give a fuck about me. And I probably should have adopted your attitude. I just didn't. I just didn't have that foresight or the ability to see that. I think maybe mainly because I didn't have such wise words of wisdom that you did before you joined about, taking advantage of all of this. They're going to use you. You need to use them. I didn't have that. And so maybe that's part of it. But now that you're talking about this, there's several moments I can look back to and be like, oh, I should have realized.
Well, and it also, for me, I never bought into the Air Force. Like, I never just bought into the overall, like, whatever you want to call it. Like, I did my duty. I did all my deployments. I was never sick at sea. I didn't use my kids when I was a single parent as a way to get out of things. I did everything I was ever asked for. I told the Air Force yes. And when somebody told me no, you're going to explain to me why it's no. I'll take no as an answer, but you're going to tell me why. Where's that written? Because I want to see it myself. Because you're not going to just tell me no to just tell me no. Um, so I did everything I was asked of. I served honorably. I did the thing. But when it came to whatever the Air Force, the dream of the Air Force, the culture of the Air Force, I never really bought into it because it was just all bullshit to me.
You just didn't get full brainwashed. That's what happened.
No, I was like, if this ride ends, I need to know when it's going to end, and I need to know I got to be ready to jump off the train.
For sure. So you jump off the train at 23 years. You had, I think you mentioned, over 10 different career changes while you were in the Air Force. You mentioned 3 big ones. So you had a lot of experience to draw on to figure out kind of what you were going to go into when you got out. How did you land on what you're doing now?
So when I left the Air Force, I got picked up almost immediately to be to help develop targeting software. And they wanted a sensor operator who operated the cameras and did kinetic strikes to kind of be the voice of reason, because if you in the tech world, there's a lot of human robots that'll make something and it's useful, but it's not, the graphic
Practical.
user interface sucks. You got to reverse code something to get something else to work. And because they're a human computer, that makes sense to them. But for me, I need something less than 30 seconds. I need 2 or 3 clicks. I need cat 1 coordinates right now. And so that's what I was hired to do. So I didn't have a background in tech. I used computers, I used Windows, I used Office, I used all these things, but as a user, not as like an admin, and not, I didn't,
Not a
so I had to
dev.
learn a whole lot of, yeah. So I had to use my skills to learn quickly and adapt to environments, to learn how to build a server, what RAID 5 was, what Security Plus was, what flight test direction was, developing all of these products, and basically doing end user software development that I'd never done, to produce a product that we could put in the hands of operators and let them get coordinates on the fly.
Yeah, so you got to learn a whole new language, probably Python,
Oh,
JavaScript, TypeScript,
absolutely.
all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through that right now because I'm completely self-taught. like kind of similar to you. And through IVMF and going to EBV, I got into a couple of Cisco Python courses, which could be better, but it's definitely eye opening. And that stuff's really not as scary as it looks. Like I equate it to learning how to read aviation weather. If you've ever learned how to read aviation weather, it's weird the first time you look at it, and then probably by about the third time, it's like, oh, this is really easy. It's so easy to decode. I feel the same way about like Python or HTML or CSS. It's really not that hard if you just invest a couple of hours into it.
Yeah, and so that was my first journey into tech. And I did a couple of contracts. I did I did that for a while on the software side for the targeting software. Then I moved to another software working directly. I think my chain of command was 5 people from the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence. Like we were working high level software development for them. And I left that job. That was during COVID. So everything was really weird. Everything was work from home. And I was, it, I just, I don't know. It was misery.
Yeah,
So
because you're
I left
back in
that
the
job.
admin office environment, right? Like
Yeah,
that's not you. I
yeah. I didn't love it. Um, so I started my own company in 2021 when I moved back to Florida. And initially, I was aiming at government contracting. So I went and got my cage code and my SDV OSB, and I got all that stuff squared away. And then government contracting under post COVID in the last 5 years was just a mess in a lot of ways. And it's hard to break into. I mean, it's don't think that I just walked around and started pulling down Palantir level contracts. It did not happen that way. And I got tired of trying to this feast or famine thing. So I said, I'm going in to be a managed service provider. I've got the experience to do the work. I want to get in the cybersecurity side. It's an evergreen business model. And that's why I am in this business now, because on the commercial side, you can make a really good living. And if you want to do government contracts, well, I've already got that infrastructure in place if I want to do that. Um, you can do it at the state and local economic development stuff. I can do it at the federal level. I can even do it internationally. I registered with the UN and the World Bank. So I can't get that sweet USAID money anymore, but
We won't comment on that, right? A lot of misappropriation of funds there, I would say. We'll just
I'm
leave it
sure.
at that. So, cybersecurity is your business, and cybersecurity is one of those things, man. You're in Florida. I'm not sure where. I'm on over here on the east coast of Florida, so Melbourne area, and I've seen billboards. Okay, so you're on the other side, straight across from me. I don't know what it looks like over there, but here recently, like we talked about offline, I've had several people reach out to me wanting to come on this platform to talk about cybersecurity, including running a live with IVMF, the Institute for Veterans and Military Families. They just launched their Google cybersecurity thing that is, I believe, completely free to veterans. It's a really good program. They have some AI stuff included in that, which I got access to, which is actually a pretty decent program. But now I'm seeing billboards for people recruiting cybersecurity techs and specific teams within cybersecurity. And so let's talk about cybersecurity and why all of a sudden this giant burst and this push to get people into cybersecurity. I mean, cybersecurity has been around since the advent of the computer and the internet, I believe, right? And so it's not like this is a new field, but why all of a sudden now the big push?
I think the biggest thing comes down to economics. So the three biggest economies are the U.S. economy, China, and cybercrime. So you're talking about $10 trillion worth of crime. It's the new organized crime. It's the new everybody can be a victim of it crime. Um, I go to 55 and older communities here in Southwest Florida and brief for free. I just walk in. I got a presentation I make. I play some videos and talk to them about stop clicking links. No one cares about your toll violations. No one's going to send you a DocuSign.
That's the new one, the toll violation text right here in
Yeah,
Florida. God, it's so annoying.
The Nigerian prince is not trying to send you money.
Right.
Crypto is a pump and dump scheme. So stop with the madness. just stop clicking links. No one wants your money for anything like normal. It's all completely nefarious. It's all a scam. And then they sit there and ask me, well, why do I need to listen to you? Why do I need to take your advice? I'm like, well, I'm trying to protect you from it. I don't know what you want me to say. I'm a real person standing in front of you trying to give you helpful advice. Like, I don't know what to do.
It's so funny that you bring that up. I had to go get my phone fixed. I dropped it and cracked the back and the screen, and it messed up the main board and all that stuff. Thank God I got Apple Care. But I was at the Apple store over on Indian Harbor Beach, and some rich older women were in there trying to get their computers fixed, and one of them had clicked one of those specific links that you're talking about. She was trying to blame it on Apple, and you got the Apple tech like, it's not Apple's fault. It's your fault for clicking the link in your email. Apple doesn't have access to that. They're not sending you that crap. And she just kept standing back and forth and arguing, like, why should I listen to you? And it's like, you're at the Apple store blaming your big problem on an Apple computer, and he's telling you what you did wrong. Like, take a step back and realize this is your fault, not the company's fault. It's really fascinating to me, particularly just kind of breaking into the AI side of the tech market and realizing, particularly with AI, I feel super left behind because it changes every day. I don't know how cybersecurity is. I don't know if there's something similar going on there, if there's kind of new workflows or whatever. But then I went to the EBV thing in Philly at the beginning of last month, and I realized I'm not at all behind. I'm like way far forward in what I know and how to leverage this stuff than 99% of people out there. And so it's fascinating to, I guess, be at the kind of the front end of a technology and then like interacting with people who don't understand it yet. Do you see that with cybersecurity too?
Well, there's like cutting edge, leading edge, bleeding edge kind of attitude in tech. And AI, in a lot of ways, there's cutting edge, there's leading edge, and there's bleeding edge in that as well. And and it's mostly strongly tilted towards bleeding edge because it's AI is evolving. Everyone's bringing out a product or everyone's bringing out an application or a use case. So you're running so fast that with AI, it's evolving so fast, it's hard to keep up. On the cybersecurity side, the same thing applies, except for on the bleeding edge, there's a lot of things that are getting developed where the government's coming in. CISA, the government organization, they're coming in and driving requirements. NSA is driving requirements. The whole intel community is driving requirements on cybersecurity and everything. So you've got a lot of innovation there. But for the most part, in cybersecurity on the commercial side, for the everyday average security provider and customer, you're looking at, I would say, probably the bleeding edge is the threat landscape. And the companies that I use to protect my customers are doing a great job at protecting the customer and updating the threat libraries daily. Almost most of the time, it's 3, 4, 5, 10 times a day that they got to update the threat library. It gets sent out, it gets sent out to the agents on the computers, and so it's updated constantly. And companies like Kaseya, ConnectWise, the bigger players in the market, they're looking at constantly evolving their solutions to capture as much as they can for the customer through us, the MSPs, to provide like one-stop shopping. And I think that's the leading edge in cybersecurity managed service. So I can have a Kaseya platform employ, one platform, and I've got the basic remote monitoring and maintenance. I've got the cybersecurity suite in there, and I've got backups. I've got cloud-based backups and things like that, kind of all wrapped up into one. So that's kind of the leading edge and where they're going. But the bleeding edge stuff, some of the, like where we're talking about quantum computing and things like that now, that stuff's going to get out of hand so fast. Like when quantum computing hits for real, not just notionally, not just as a concept, when you take AI and quantum computing and you put those things together, it's going to change. It's going to be an internet of the 90s change to our society.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a world altering event For sure. And I agree with you on that. The reason I enjoyed the tech side of things, you mentioned that this is an evergreen career field, right? We've got the internet, it's not going anywhere. We're always going to need security. Um, Through previous conversations, particularly with IVMF, transferring from the military into cyber, it's a lot like being in the military, kind of just the way cyber is structured with different teams. I know Purple Team would be like one that I'd really like have fun on, just like going in and attacking things to test the security threat levels and all of that. That sounds fun to me. Do you agree with that? Do you think it's a really good transition for veterans to move into cybersecurity because of that kind of structure, that team environment, it seems like constant learning? I know that's what it is with me on the AI side of things. It's like there's always something new to learn, and it's always a challenge because I get to determine, is this shiny object syndrome or does this have merit? Is this something that's going to be around, kind of thing? And being so involved in the AI world, I've kind of determined which products right now are the ones that you are going to use and have valid use cases and are moving things forward, and which ones are shiny object syndrome. Is it like that in the cybersecurity world as well?
I don't think it's shiny object syndrome as much because it is a new reality. If you are outpacing entire nations' economies with cybercrime as an economy, it's not a shiny object anymore. It's a painful reality. And that is, if you think about the manufacturing jobs of post World War II, those were a reality for us. We had to have them. Car production, housing, it didn't matter what it was, we were mass producing. And we are going to have to do that now because the aging population of current engineers in all specialties of engineering, um, we're losing engineers faster than we can make them. And I don't know if that was a shift to just go get a bachelor's degree. It doesn't matter what it's in or what caused that. Math is hard. I don't know.
Particularly to be a software engineer, you need to go through physics and calculus and some other logarithmic shit. Like that doesn't interest me. I can go learn code without knowing all that shit.
Right. But when you look at if you're looking at cybersecurity or IT as a shiny object, I think you're thinking in the 90s. That's like no one's going to give a shit about the internet. Who's going to ever buy anything online? And now you like, okay, good luck. Go find it in a store now. Go to Amazon and shut up. Like the tables have turned and we're doing e-commerce. We don't want regular commerce. Regular commerce is for groceries and gas.
Well, and I mean, it's funny because even that is shifting. I just got an email, a really interesting email from, I don't know if you have them on your side, but we have Pet Pros over here. I got an email the other day because we used to buy dog food from them when we lived up in the Cocoa Beach area, and they're closing their original store, and and there's one left down here where I'm at, and now they're going to do deliveries. And it's like, man, you don't even, to get dog food now, you can get that shit delivered from a Pet Pros store, like a mom and pop, you know, family owned dog food store, right? And I think all of that's shifting. Like Walmart Plus, I could sit here and make an order right now, and it'll be delivered to my house by the time we're done recording this podcast. Like that's the shift that you're talking about.
Well, and you think about it too, Kroger did something really interesting. Kroger doesn't have any stores anywhere in Florida that I know of, but you can't swing a dead cat without finding a Kroger truck delivering groceries down here.
Seriously. Yeah, it's fascinating.
So they have expanded their territory to a state they're not even doing any brick and mortar business per se in. So now they're the Amazon of groceries, and yeah, you can get Walmart delivery, you can get DoorDash deliveries and all that stuff. Kroger just said, well, I don't need a huge store. We can just deliver with a truck and be done with it. And they got distribution centers where they're everywhere.
Dude, and the tech in their distribution centers that packs those orders is so cool.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen behind the scenes of that. It's really cool.
They've automated a lot of it, so they've got people there to watch the machines work. But so they've taken a lot of the business model and efficiency and changed it around to the point where now I don't know where their profit margin is, but it's got to be pretty high if they don't 50 stores in Tampa.
I know it has to be high, man. I see 4 or 5 times a week that truck in my neighborhood, just in my neighborhood. And I think we only have like 170 houses in both sides of the neighborhood. So it's like, it's not that many people, but I can't go anywhere. I'll go to the gym later tonight and I'll see one of those Kroger trucks. I see them everywhere, like what you're talking about. And I think this is like a perfect example of a company who's going to need strong cybersecurity, because if something happens to their infrastructure on the cyber side, it just destroys their entire business here in the state of Florida, right? So like, this is your wheelhouse.
Yeah. And I was at a networking event last night, and I talked to people about the basics of cybersecurity, just simple things. And it's not just, and for our generation, we're not clicking links. We're not really falling for the click links as much. We're not falling for the DocuSign emails that come in through your spam and all that. Where we're getting hit is trying to reuse a password 20 different times because we hate using passwords, or, we want to just sign into our browser and let it do all the work for us. So those are some of the things, but, it's if you're a veteran looking for a job, go into tech, because as your experience grows, you go out and get more certifications, you're going to make more money. The government contracting side, one thing that they didn't cut in all of those contracts they just canceled was anything to do with IT supply, IT infrastructure, IT service desks, SOC service desks. And I'll tell you this too. This is going to sound really wild, and I will outright insult the FBI because I worked there. In 2023, I worked at the FBI headquarters. I was doing construction project management because it's one of the things I have experience doing. The FBI has all of the technology because they're doing all the criminal investigations and everything. So I'm sitting there talking to them, and I'm just like, so they had, their cybersecurity people and their internal IT people and all that. I'm sitting there talking to them, and knowing what I know about IT and knowing what I know about just the tech industry, I'm talking to this guy, and he's talking about shit 10 years ago. He's like, yeah, and we're running this, and he's showing me, and I'm just like, you guys are the premier law enforcement thing on the planet, allegedly, and you guys are talking about running Norton antivirus, like
right? Using antiquated technology. It makes sense. That's why they didn't cut any IT contracts, because we know the government systems are antiquated. They don't talk to each other. That's part of the problem with all the shit that's been uncovered, however you choose to view that, right? Like, I think there's merit to a lot of things that are going on with that particular organization. And I think there's a lot of bullshit going on too. Like, I think there's good with the bad, right? And the bad with the good kind of thing.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I'll tell you the thing about VPNs. So again, another thing I had access to is like when I worked in the hospital, I worked in medical clinics. So I asked the doctors every medical question I could think of, like random shit that I just like, hey man, why does my body hurt when I get the flu? Why does it feel like I get hit by a truck? And, they explained this long thing, but, I just always wanted to know, because there's no reason for me to ache so bad. But for some reason, I'm feeling that back injury I had in 2005 when I got the flu 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So I had access to intelligence professionals, like the 11th floor of the FBI is a giant intelligence operation. And I was up there all the time. So I just stop in and ask questions about, hey, cybercrime and this, because they had a whole division of people for it. And they're chasing everybody. No one's on the vanguard anymore, because it moves so fast. That's the thing about cybersecurity and cybercrime. It's moving so fast, the government can't keep enough solutions and enough people in it to be on the offense. They're always on the defense, and they're always chasing behind. And it's because we have a lot of people that are in charge that are still thinking about 10 years ago. We're still thinking about the .com race to the top. And well, I remember when Amazon was Jeff Bezos sitting in front of a white banner that had Amazon spray painted on it. That was 25 years ago, and the guy's got like way more accomplishments than a bunch of books online.
Right. The dude's got the fucking biggest yacht in the world. Like, come on.
They removed a bridge. They removed a bridge to get that man's boat out of the harbor.
They really
Shut
did.
the fuck up. Get some people in here that know what's going on. Like,
yeah. So
I
the
was,
moral of the story with cyber is the floor is really high and the ceiling is only going to get higher in terms of the amount of money and career opportunity you're going to have over the next 50 to 100 years.
I don't know where the next 5 years is going to take my company, but I'm not going to go broke.
No, you're not.
I'll tell you that.
We were talking offline. You are not in any danger of that happening for sure.
And I'm not making millions of dollars. And trust me, I mean, I'm still a very small company, but and I still do. I'll be honest with you, man. I'm still doing construction projects to keep the lights on. Yesterday, I was doing drywall.
Well,
I was
I mean,
finishing drywall on a project, and
the reality of the
so I'm running
situation
my
is
company. And
you've got to sacrifice in the short term to build your company so that, sounds like to me, and I don't know the inner workings of your business, but you're pretty freaking close to setting yourself free, so to speak, right? Like, I would say by the end of this year, probably that's probably on your goals list.
the end of this year, I've got a lot of goals, and and this is another message that veterans need to hear, and I'm going to tell them flat out: dreams are free. Be delusional.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Hold on a second. I want to show you something.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, it kind of right there. It's going to be blurry, but it looks like a check.
Yeah, that's a check that I wrote to myself out of my business for $12 million.
Boom.
That's going to be the paycheck that's going to buy me my fucking yacht.
Yes.
And I wrote that to myself on March 6th, 2025. So be delusional. You better have big dreams.
Dude, it's incredible, man. That's next level, right? I know that you're probably not this guy, but that's manifesting your future for yourself. And I actually
absolutely 100%.
Heard an interesting quote last night. Nobody manifests anything. What happens, basically, you don't create habits and routines, but basically what happens is you wake up one day and you say, I'm going to be this person. And then you start taking action and living your life in the kind of the light of your future self. And that's why you end up successful, because you start to visualize yourself. For example, you writing a $12 million check to yourself. That might seem asinine to a lot of people right now listening to this. However, that's probably one of the most powerful things you could have done for yourself, because you probably look at that thing every single fucking day. Every day. It's probably one of the first things you look at. It's like, what action do I need to take today to get myself that $12 million check?
It sits right there on a whiteboard. I put there's a second check from my personal account to write to the company for. I wrote it out to the company for the boat. I shit you not. I'll show it to you.
That's awesome, dude. This dude says, fuck a vision board. My vision board is checks to myself and my company for the things that I want. That's amazing.
Right there.
Good for you.
So I manifesting is everything. Number one, dreams are free. So I could sit here and dream about anything I want. Fast cars, big boats, a helicopter, whatever you want. Like, if you can imagine it, you can do it, right? We live in a time when anything is available to anybody as long as you put in hard work. The other thing is when you come out of the military, listen, man, we gave you a whole lot of skills that you are not aware that you possess because we never identified them to you by name. A couple of those skills right off the rip: determination, the will to do anything to get the job done, up to including your heart stopping voluntarily because you were sacrificing your own life to make sure your friends made it, doing the job right the first time or your friends die, and you are absolutely resilient in austere environments. We have put you in the shittiest places. We put burn pits on you. We put heat, cold. Here's a bunch of weight that you got to carry around. Here's a bunch of loud noises.
And
blow this door open.
Yep. If you're going to do it wet.
Yeah, you're going to do it wet, cold, miserable. By the way, you got a concussion now. Enjoy that concussion for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like, we did a whole bunch of stuff for you to give you a bunch of life skills. And because we took away the structure, now you don't have those life skills. No, that's not the thing.
Man, this speaks to me so much because, being in the AI world, and I don't know, I'm curious to get your opinion, your thoughts on this. I'm so far deep in this world. I'm playing with tools like Windsurf and Cursor. I don't know if you've heard of those, but they're essentially basically write code for you if you know how to use them properly. And because I'm experimenting with these things and this is the path I've chosen to go down, I've latched on to several senior engineers and developers who have, 30, 25, 30, 40-year careers in this stuff. And they're adamant that these tools are the future and that they level the playing field because they're using the tool more than they're actually writing code now. That's how good these things are getting. And the reason I bring this up is not to convince anybody, although I would love it, to convince people to really pay attention to AI and the tech space right now, even more so than you are. But I say that because of all those skills you just named that we don't necessarily identify, the big two, resilience and adaptability, discipline, for me, those are the big three. You can now go and download Cursor on your computer right now today, and you can just play with it. You're not going to fuck anything up. You're not going to damage your computer, but you can create these things. This levels the playing field for you. If you have an idea, put it into the Cursor agent, and you're not going to get good results unless you understand how to structure prompts and all of that. But that's more advanced stuff. But you can get some idea of a working, functional MVP almost of your idea in about an hour on Cursor right now. It's just leveled the playing field. And this is what I really want people to understand, man. You should really be looking at, I'm a dumb infantry guy. I'm a dumb infantry guy who deployed 4 times, TBI, PTSD, all the fucking shit, right? And here I am playing with shit that I thought was untouchable for me. It just looked like a foreign language. It looked so hard to understand. Come to find out, man, I'm building things that people actually want, that solve real problems, and it's not taking a whole lot of time. It can be frustrating, but again, that resilience, that adaptability, you can sit there and have a conversation with this tool all day long to get the result that you want just through brute force. That's the kind of power that we're talking about that getting into tech has for you right now. Do you agree with any of that?
I do, man, and I actually think ruthless adaptability is one of our greatest strengths. And I say it's ruthless because I've been to Afghanistan, I've been to Iraq, I've been to places in Africa no one's ever heard of. I was in Bosnia. I was all over the Pacific. Like, I've been to some really crazy places, and I didn't complain about the trip. I didn't complain about the job I had to do. I just showed up and did it. And that is a part of that adaptability. And people, for some reason, the structure is the magic ingredient that makes us ruthlessly adaptable for some reason. Well, when you come out and the train stops at your stop, you get off and it keeps on trucking and they don't look back. They don't care about you. They're going to send you your monthly paycheck if you're going to get one, whatever you get from the VA, or if you retired like I did from the Air Force, like your pay shows up. And if there's not a problem with your pay, like, they don't care that you exist or don't, unless they want to call you back. And I got a letter saying that I was eligible for callback. I'm like, don't be banging my line, motherfucker, because you got all you're going to get. Like, I know that I'm technically getting retirement as rent, but my VA rating is too high to go back on active duty. So don't think I'm going to voluntarily give that up. Like, fuck y'all. You got 23 plus years and you get no more. And then, you come out and, like, we all have hopes and dreams. There's not anybody, regardless of who they are or what they are or where they are, that doesn't have a hope or a dream. I don't care if you're just a dumb infantry guy, like you say, or you're a 4-star general. You've got a hope or a dream and you want to be somewhere like that. It can't, like, you can't throw all your eggs in the I served basket forever. It doesn't work.
It really doesn't.
Be proud of it, leverage it, but move on from it. You've got a whole life ahead of you, especially if you got out, you did one enlistment, you started when you're 17, you're out at 21, and you went to combat. Maybe you deployed 1 or 2 times as an infantryman then, and now you come out. Like, you got the 1,000-yard stare because you saw some shit? Okay, go get some care.
Right.
Go get some help for that. I encourage everyone, leverage the VA, leverage your mental health. I've got PTSD from being in the hospital. I don't have PTSD from being a mechanic, and I don't have one from being a sensor operator. I don't feel bad about anything I did as a sensor operator. And everybody who got what they got it, had it coming. My time as an administrator boils down to about 9 months worth of time that really fucked me up. And that was when I was in Afghanistan at the Craig Joint Theater Hospital in 2008 from January to September. And it was a banner fucking year for the Taliban. They were fucking tearing us apart. And I saw the inside of too many fucking people in a trauma bay. And I could go in the trauma bay and I could handle it. And they were like, well, you got to go in the trauma bay forever now. So my deployment there was all trauma bay every day, 2-3 times a day we were getting hit.
Well, and
as soon as the weather warmed up, it was on.
You speak to something that's what through ayahuasca I discovered. I thought I was going to deal with kind of all the shit I did as a combat infantry guy over 4 deployments, and really what I learned was I dealt with a lot of childhood shit and a lot of moral injury shit is what you're talking about. The moral injury shit really, that's the stuff I think that fucks us up the most, man. It's picking up your buddy's body parts and putting them in a dump pouch so you could try and save a limb. It's watching somebody step on an IED and do cartwheels, missing their fucking legs 30 feet in the air. You know, that kind of shit. That's the kind of shit that fucks you up. It's not killing the guys that are trying to kill you. I never had a problem with that. I never even questioned it. Like I told you, my Afghanistan deployment, I was talking to IC, we were using the Aerostat platforms, and Panjwai, Afghanistan in 2012 was the hottest place in Afghanistan for the entire deployment that we were there. We had the most SIGACs in the country every single day. Did not matter what day it was. So we were doing a lot of killing with that Aerostat platform. That never fucking bothered me, man. Never. I'd sit there and eat breakfast running a fucking kill mission. Didn't think twice about it, just eating my eggs. But when we would get dudes that would get hurt and we'd bring them back to the aid station, calling in the medevac and, holding pressure on that leg that's now missing, that's the shit that fucks you up.
Yeah, I never wanted to be in the hospital. I never wanted to work in a hospital. I don't like hospitals. I don't love going to the doctor. I don't go to the military hospital on base because it's like 20 miles from me. I'm not going to drive 20 miles. I could drive 5 miles. You know what I mean? I go to a Florida medical clinic. And, so going to the hospital I never wanted to really be a medic or anything like that. I don't love blood and guts. I don't want to stop at car wrecks. It's not my favorite thing. And, transitioning into that, initially I was working at a hospital in Dayton, Ohio at Wright-Patterson, where I was doing some admissions and dispositions, and I was doing, general record stuff. It wasn't anything like that. Well, when you get deployed, if you're a strong back, you're carrying a stretcher. Well, guess what's on the stretcher? Women, kids, people maimed in combat, CCAP patients that weigh 300 pounds because they got every piece of equipment on them. And that guy's on life support we're taken to the C-17 or whatever the platform is that we're flying them out on. And it just was too much. And my time at the FBI, we went to a couple of offsite places, and they have, I can't say where it's at, but I can tell you it exists because everybody knows it exists. The place where they maintain the actual list of terrorists, like the list of you fucked up and now you're on the bad boy list of America. I've been to that place. And the guy who started it after 9/11 said, well, I want to make sure that everybody who walks in this building is impacted by the work they're doing before they even get to their desk. So he went and got all of these artifacts from all of these terrorist attacks. So like they've got 3 flagpoles from 9/11. They've got a piece of the Twin Towers outside. When you walk in, and the first thing you see is the number 1 engine from Flight 11 and the girder that it impacted.
Jesus.
And I have gone through the war on terror. I was started in 96. I leave in 2019. So that's a lot of time in the war on terror in 3 different career fields. I've got a lot of shitty experiences from the war on terror. And the first fucking thing I see when I walk in this building, and I don't know what it is, like I can't really, without any kind of
context,
background or explanation. Yeah. No, there's no context. I'm walking in and I'm like, oh, that's weird. There's an airplane engine in here. Well, they give us a tour of the facility and they show us everything. And he's like, by the way, that's the number 1 engine. That was the first that was the engine that hit, blah, blah, blah. So I walk up and I touch it. And when I have something that is affecting me that I know is flaring my PTSD, then I know I'm in a situation where I'm going to have an issue. My face goes into pins and needles. I get this physical thing with my face. It feels like my whole face is just asleep and it's coming back to life. I touched that engine because I was like, I don't know why I just touched it. It's just sitting there. It's not in a case. It's sitting on like this big metal stand, and I touched it, and my face just immediately went pins and needles. And my boss looked over at me and he goes, "Are you okay?" I said, "I just touched a murder weapon that defined 20 years of my life." And he started crying. I started crying. Like I was just overwhelmed. Like it was overwhelming. I'm like, it's unbelievable. You have the fucking motor and the girder that it hit. And it's funny too, because he's like, and this is a picture, and there's this big ass fucking picture of a lady, and you can look it up online, where she's standing holding onto that girder and waving at people for help. It's one of I don't know if it won a Pulitzer, but it's a signature picture from the attacks. And that fucking girder standing, it's right there in front of me. And I'm like, this is fucking surreal, man. So the PTSD thing, like some people don't think it exists. It absolutely exists. And it'll hit you in places that you don't expect. It'll hit you. It'll, I've had it happen to me. Like my son, when he was born with colic. He for like 20 months, he had colic. And it was like, you can't do anything with a kid with colic. They just scream because they can't pass gas and they're in pain. And it's the worst fucking torture in the world. Because you can't help them. I feel bad because I can't help you and I can't solve the problem. And I realized that if you want to get any information from me in a torture scenario, a screaming baby, I'll spill all the beans. Just stop the screaming baby.
Yeah.
Right? Well, if I'm in a Publix and I hear a screaming baby, I'll fucking leave my cart and leave Publix. Like it's that bad for me. He screamed so much there was just nothing I could do. And I felt so bad for my son because all you want to do is solve their problem, right? And so like I think of all the things, like a PTSD from just seeing the inside of too many people, man. I don't go hunting. I fish, but I catch and release. I don't clean any fish. I don't want to see the inside of an animal. And another thing, I guess as a symptom of my PTSD, or I don't feel bad about doing shitty things to people. Like you said, like I don't feel bad about any of the things that occurred there. I would feel worse about hitting a dog in the street over the things I did in the military.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I echo that 100%, man. Dude, we're out of time. We're like kind of way over time. I appreciate the extra time you've given today. What's one thing that you hope that those listening take away from our conversation today? Be it, you've got opportunity in tech or, asking for help. What do you want them to get from this?
I want you to come out of the military and I want you to realize that you can do anything. We took you off the street and we gave you the job that we thought you fit best. You took the ASVAB and we said, you're going to be infantry, you're going to be a mechanic, you're going to be an admin guy, whatever it is. You didn't have that dream when you didn't want to be a personnelist when you came into the Army or the Air Force or whatever. They gave you that job. So if I can train you to do that as somebody who I put through basic training off the street and gave you whatever job I decided you were best for, and I made you successful in it, and you did that job, then you come out, you can do anything. You can go to school for anything. You can be trained to do anything, and you can go make a living, whether it's in tech or you want to go open your own business. You can do anything. We gave you the tools. We made you ruthlessly adaptable. You just have to get past the structure and create your own. Don't worry about that structure that you left. Create your own structure to make yourself successful. That's where it's at. That's what I want people to hear.
I think that's the best advice that's been given so far, is just create your own structure. I love that, man. Tell people how they can find you if they want to reach out to you for advice and how to get into cyber, that kind of stuff. Well, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Probably my LinkedIn profile. So Matthew Burch on LinkedIn, Loggerhead Dynamics on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get a hold of me. I don't do a lot of social media. I've got a Twitter and an Instagram under the Florida Cyber Company, the FL Cyber Co. But I don't really do a lot of posting there. It's mostly LinkedIn is where you can find me, and my website, of course.
I love it, man. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Matthew Burch, 23-year Air Force veteran, and now a tech founder. So I really appreciate you being here, man. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode, and we'll be back next week with another banger of an episode. Take care, everybody. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.